What's the weirdest unsolved mystery? Lars Mittank. Guy goes on a ski vacation. Bumps his head hard enough to warrant a doctor's visit. Gets diagnosed with a ruptured eardrum, which he takes care of for a couple of days with an antibiotic. He's due to fly home. But while in the airport, he's spotted by the security cameras full on sprinting out of the airport with his luggage. He goes missing after that. I'm pretty sure it was mental issues that came from bashing his head, and he got full on paranoid and ran away from his enemies. Other theories are that he was involved in drug smuggling, so he ran when he had the chance. Another theory is that he was the target of black market organ harvesting, young guy with good organs and a tourist. Yup. Closed bracket comma. As he sees the airport doctor before boarding his plane home, and the doctor advised him not to fly. Sounds a lot like the guy who went missing while skiing in New York this year. Said he was going to take one more run at the end of the day, and disappeared. His car was still in the parking lot with his ID in it. 6 days later he turns up in California still wearing his ski clothes, and not sure how he got there. Gareth Williams, young man that worked for GCHQ and was attached to work at Me6, didn't clock in at work for a few days. So the police went to check in on him. They find his body in a bag in the bathtub. The bag was padlocked shut and the key was in the bag under the body. Police concluded that it was nearly impossible for him to lock himself in the bag. The police are pretty sure he was murdered, but the case has gone pretty cold. The Chicago Tylenol murders had gripped the nation suddenly in the 1980s. Police were driving around with loudspeakers telling people to throw out their Tylenol. 7 people died, and a fake thigh never even came up with a suspect. The man-eating catfish of Nepal. Several people pulled under and disappeared in a stretch of the Kali River in Nepal. Crocs and sharks were ruled out, though perhaps prematurely. The best guess is that catfish had started eating the corpses pushed in the river from funeral pyres and had grown huge. They found a 6-footer in there, but nothing ever proven. The case of Sarah and Jacob Hoggle. September 7, 2014. Troy Turner, 45, left his kids and their mother, 31-year-old Catherine Hoggle, at Catherine's mother's home in Gaithersburg, Maryland, before going to work around 2:30 p.m. He did not leave her unsupervised with their children because she has schizophrenia and could not be trusted to be safe with them. According to police investigating the case, Catherine left her mother's home that day in 2014 around 4 p.m., saying she was taking Jacob out to get pizza. 3 hours later, without either Jacob or pizza, she returned to say she had dropped him off at a playmate's house for a sleepover. She then took Sarah and the couple's older son back to her own home. Troy came home and went to bed without checking on the children as usual because he was tired. He then awoke the next morning to discover Jacob, Sarah and their mother all gone. When Catherine eventually returned, she claimed she dropped the 2 kids at a new child care center. After hours of being cagey about where the new daycare is, Troy headed towards the police station with Catherine to get help. Catherine asked him to stop at a fast food restaurant, and after texting her mother that the missing kids were fine, she disappeared herself, not to re-emerge for several days when she was found wandering the streets and taken into custody. The children have not been found, and although Catherine claims they are fine, the children have been declared dead by investigators. The family still searches for them, but both Troy and his mill believe they are probably dead. For a long time, they hoped Catherine had given them to someone for safekeeping, but too much time has passed for that theory to be realistic. Catherine has been declared unfit for trial due to her paranoid schizophrenia, but family members who know Catherine believe she is playing the system and knows more than she's letting on. Catherine has attempted to escape the hospital psych ward, where she's being kept, several times, and flat out refuses to tell anyone what happened to the children. My favorite is probably John Lang's case. Basically, a local activist posts regularly about the Fresno Police Department and about how they were plotting against him. People thought he was crazy until he set up a camera that recorded lots of weird shit. including a bunch of cops parking across the street from his house staring at him in the middle of the night, and a van pulling up with a large camera that people theorized took thermal pictures through walls to see if anyone was inside. He posted that weekend the police was going to murder him and predicted his death. The police released a report saying that he was stabbed repeatedly in the back and then recanted, saying it was supposedly a suicide of a crazy man. The disappearance of Gary Mathias, aka the Yuba County 5. Not just weird, but very sad. 5 men between the ages of 24 to 32 were very close friends. They all either had mental issues or intellectual disabilities, and all still lived with their families. They went to see a basketball game 50 miles/80 kilometers away. After the game, they drove to a convenience store to grab some snacks and drinks, and then were never seen alive again. Their car was found on a mountain around the snow line, 70 miles/110 kilometers away from the basketball game, nowhere near the route back home. The car was abandoned, but it still drove fine and had gas. On the same night they went missing, a man was driving up the same road and got stuck. When he tried pushing his car out, he had a heart attack. He saw another car pull up behind him with a group of people around it, including a woman with a baby. When he called for help, they stopped talking and turned their lights off. Later on, he saw people walking around with flashlights. When he called for help, they again turned their lights off. This all happened in February. In June, the first of the bodies were found. One man, Weha, was found in a ranger's trailer 20 miles/31 kilometers from the car. He had lost almost 100 pounds, and the growth of his beard suggested he'd been alive in the trailer for up to 13 weeks before he starved to death. The trailer had matches, things for burning. It had heavy clothing to wear. It had enough food for all 5 men to survive on for a year. It had heating that was never turned on. Bones of 3 of the other men were eventually found around the trail leading from the car to the trailer. They are believed to have died of hypothermia, though Gary Mathias's shoes were in the trailer with Weha, suggesting he was there at some point, and Weha had been tucked into bed, so someone else was with him. His remains were never found. Nobody knows why they were even on that road to begin with, let alone why they would abandon their car instead of just driving back down the road. Or why, once they got to the trailer, they didn't use any of the supplies to stay alive. The Green Children of Woolpit. It's from the 12th century. 2 green-skinned children appeared at the bottom of a wolf trap near a town. They spoke no known language and would eat nothing but peas still in the pod. They were a boy and a girl. Eventually the boy died, but the girl flourished and learned English. She claimed that they had come from somewhere underground called St. Martin where the sun never shone. The disappearance of Brian Schaffer drives me bonkers. He was videotaped entering a bar, but no video footage of him leaving. Nobody has a clue what happened to him. The wife of CNY leader David Miscavige has not been seen in 11 years. The church insists that she's just too busy to make public appearances, but former member Lee Ramini has filed a missing person report for her. Some say she's straight up dead. The disappearance of Zeb Quinn. Background: this 18-year-old boy went missing in January 2000. A couple of days later, the Walmart where he worked received a phone call from someone purporting to be Zeb calling in sick. The woman who answered the phone knew Zeb well and reported the call to police. It was tracked back to a young man named Robert Jason Owens. Jason admitted making the call, but claimed that Zeb asked him to. At that point, it was discovered that Jason was the last person to see him alive. Jason is a suspect according to Jason. He and Zeb were planning to go look at a car that Zeb was considering buying. Surveillance footage does corroborate the beginning part of the evening. Jason claimed that Zeb received a page, returned the call, and was frantic. Zeb drove away claiming it was some sort of emergency. Now, there was a heck of a lot of incriminating stuff pointing at Jason. He was the one calling in sick for Zeb. He was the last known person to see him alive. And he showed up at a hospital with a lot of injuries claiming to have been in a car accident. But there was no damage on his vehicle. But here's the kicker. That page that caused Zeb to be frantic actually took place and was indeed something that might make him panic. The page. So, Zeb received a page that night. exactly when Jason said it occurred, and it was from the landline of his aunt Ina. Now, Ina was on his dad's side and they didn't know each other well at all. There was no reason why Ina would have paged him, but Ina was having dinner with a friend of hers who had a daughter, Misty, about Zeb's age. Zeb had been dating her, even though she had a boyfriend. That boyfriend caught on and threatened to kill Zeb. The supposed dinner took place at Misty and her mother's house. Boyfriend was supposedly there too. They all alibied each other, and they all claimed that none of them made this page. Ina even filed a police report claiming someone broke into her house to make this page. If the Ina page wasn't a part of this case, there's no doubt in my mind that Jason would have been arrested. But we know he had contact with someone who threatened to kill him on the night he disappeared. Oh, and there is no known link between Jason and the rest of them. The car. His car went missing with him, but then mysteriously popped up right in front of his mother and sister's workplace. It had a bunch of weird crap painted on the windows and a live puppy inside. What the fuck? Shit that happened later. The case went cold for over a decade, then came roaring back to life when Jason decided to murder a couple of more people. He had been doing handyman work for Food Network star contestant Christy Schoen and her husband J.T. Codd when he murdered them for reasons that aren't 100% apparent. So one of our suspects is a murderer and the other group of suspects is lying about their alibi. I feel like Jason probably did this for whatever reason, but I still have no idea why Ina and co are lying about making this page. On the Trail of the Golden Owl, a book published in 1993 as clues to a treasure hunt. The Golden Owl is real and a bronze replica, and buried somewhere in France. Whoever can work out the puzzle will be able to decipher where it buried, and collect the golden statuette.